have everybody here. Welcome to the call. Hope everybody enjoyed a beautiful long weekend with their families and friends. And today I got a special guest. I'm pulling an audible today. I got a special guest by the name of Jay Campbell. And man, I've spent some time with this guy, and he's just some serious passion, serious energy. Got an unbelievable real estate business in California, Southern California, that is. And Jay Campbell is here with us today. He's number one in production in his Keller Williams office. To close in 25 to 30 million a year. He's been in the business for 20 years. And Jay, I can't thank you enough for being here, man, and being a part of this Agent Mastermind. And I know that you got a lot of stuff to cover. Welcome to the call, man. What's going on out there in the big CA?
Hey, what's up, Scott? Thank you so much for having me, man. Very excited, very passionate to be here today. I really appreciate the invite. Hopefully, I can offer some really awesome tactics and stuff that a lot of the folks listening on the call can apply and put right into their work today.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So tell us a little bit about yourself. I know I did a short intro, but man, you were telling me all the other stuff that you've been involved in, and is there anything else you want to share about you and who you are and why we're even here today?
Yeah, I'll just give you a high-level, very brief introduction. So my wife and I own, a residential real estate team here in Southern California. It's the Monica Diaz team. We've been in business together about 4 years. My background before that, I was in digital marketing in the automotive space. Recently, I'm very, very, very much into serial entrepreneurship. I've done a lot of stuff. I wrote a best-selling book on testosterone replacement therapy that was published in November and is leading me to a number of other things, building funnels, working with other entrepreneurs. But for the purposes of what I do on the real estate side of things today, I handle pretty much everything that Monica Diaz's team does from a digital marketing standpoint. I work with consultants, of course, but that's my passion, is like helping people understand how to become a realtor in today's marketplace and what they need to do to, ultimately successful. But beyond that, building a lasting and impressionable brand that, hopefully if they build the right type of business, they can sell later in life if they want to get out of real estate.
Beautiful. That's amazing, man. And I think you're way on your way to doing that. And so let's get started, man. So with this, you want to start with 4 to 5-star online reputation and talk about what that means and how you've done that?
Sure, absolutely. Absolutely. So I appreciate the lead-in. So for all of the folks out there today that are listening to this call, and I know we're recording this and it'll probably be offered as a podcast through Scott's interface, but this is the number one thing. If you're getting into the real estate market today, even if you're a 5-year to 10-year realtor, there's nothing more important than this step or doing this for your brand. And the reason I say that is as the marketplace shifts and most of the purchasing power starts coming from what is phrased to as the millennial generation, having online credibility, having a pristine, what I call a 5-star reputation is absolutely critical and crucial to your success, because the truth is that everyone today, and this is not just the millennial generation, but I'm from Generation X, I'm 45, and then obviously people above me are the baby boomer generation. Almost every single one of those folks researches everything they do, right? So if they're going to hire you as a real estate agent, to either represent them as a buyer's agent or perhaps list their home with you, hopefully if you're on the selling side, you can absolutely guarantee that they're researching you beforehand. So they'll go to Google, they'll go to the big real estate portal sites like Realtor.com, Zillow, Trulia, all of those sites. And then of course, if they're searching you on Google, all the other ranking sites like Yelp, and there's a number, Angie's List, there's a number of other sites, but it's absolutely critical that you build a 5-star online reputation in order to, build the type of brand that is lasting and impressionable in your marketplace.
Beautiful. So would you, and this is a virtual question, could somebody help you with this? Because I know one of the questions I get a lot is, man, there's just so much. Right here you got Yelp, Google, Zillow, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest. On and on and on and on. There's this new Snapchat, all this new stuff.
Yep.
Is this, and you have to, there's a party going on in all of these places. Can someone help you with that, or do you have someone help you with that, or are you running the show on that?
Well, it's a great question. So it's actually a critical question to be answered, and I appreciate you asking it. So when Monica and I first got together, which was about 4.5 years ago, and started our business together, Monica was already a successful producing agent. She was doing between 35 and 40 transactions a year. Making $500,000 in GCI, whatever that production was. I can't recall off the top of my head. I built this all myself. But again, that was 4.5 years ago when there wasn't, the saturation in the marketplace from all the various, social media profiles and entities that you mentioned. And you're right, it becomes overwhelming. There's so many different companies. So the answer to your question is twofold. It depends on how evolved you are as a person. I find that a lot of the millennials are very good at going on and building their brand. And when I say building their brand, I would start with, you need to build a business page on 3 sites, okay, or a profile on 3 sites that are critical. And again, this is all dependent on where you are in North America. I'm sure you have people that are watching this or listening to this all over the place. But let's say in Southern California or any large coastal population center, the 3 main sites that you have to have a profile, a very centralized profile, is Zillow, Yelp, and Facebook. Okay, so I would recommend that all 3 of those social media sites, you build a business page or a profile. Obviously, you can't build a business page on Zillow, but you can build a strong profile. The answer to your question, can somebody help you? Absolutely. There are numerous companies out there that will do what is called done-for-you social media profile building. I think personally, however, and we can talk about this later as we get through this deck, I don't think any entry-level agent should pay a cent in advertising or marketing because they can do this stuff themselves. And obviously doing it yourself is going to teach you a lot about building and centralizing your brand. And what I mean by that is that when you're building your brand, you have to be able to make sure you have a consistent message. You don't have to be as evolved as somebody of our production or at a level that we've been involved in, but you, as an entry-level person, and again I'm speaking for entry-level people, you can easily build a business page on Facebook, a business page on Yelp, and also build a profile on Zillow that won't take more than 10 minutes to 15 minutes to build. And then obviously once you build them, I recommend going on those sites and playing around and looking at top producing agents or premier agents or whatever you would refer to them, and then start building your profile based along what you see on those guys. And that's, as they always say, imitation is the most sincerest form of flattery. So the reality is if you copy what other successful or productive agents in your marketplace are doing, you're going to obviously find some success ultimately. But again, if you've been in the business 10 years, and let's say you're a producer, you're doing $5 million a year, and you feel like your brands are not centralized, or you feel like this is all overwhelming to you, there are people out there, there are companies out there. I won't name names, but if you want to reach out to me after this call, I'd be happy to recommend people that are, in my opinion, cost efficient and will do this for you.
Beautiful, beautiful answer. Couldn't have said it better myself, my man. So, harness the power of video in your content marketing. And you're a huge one on this. You said, just before this call, you said you put out 2 or 3 a month.
Correct. Actually, we do more. I have a producer that produces 2 or 3 a month where, they do a bunch of editing and they overlay, content and whatnot, like, fancy stuff. But this is kind of, I think this is my favorite topic in this slide deck because this is great. Again, I'm trying to speak at a very low level, not low level, but a very entry level. So, for some of the folks that may be listening to this, that this doesn't apply to them, I apologize, but I want to speak, as open and as for open entry level folks as possible. But anybody can create a YouTube channel. If you're an entry level realtor and you want to, get the best bang for your buck, you can literally take videos or do videos of yourself. Not yourself, but basically videos. Think about what people want to consume from a content standpoint. What does the average buyer or seller out in the marketplace, what kind of topics are they interested in? You can do very simple, what I call selfie videos on your cell phone. You don't even have to spend a lot of money for production or anything like that, and talk about very interesting topics that people on Facebook, on YouTube, interested in the things that you're doing, which is obviously selling or buying if you're in real estate, are interested in. That could be any kind of simple topic like, hey, it's the spring, the top 5 things to do to get your home ready for a listing. Or if you're working with a buyer, what are the 4 most important steps that a buyer has to do before they start buying, look to purchase a home. So, those kind of like information-based videos that will take you like 45 to 60 seconds to do, which are shot on your phone. You can obviously read it, off or have it below you or something like that. But that's the kind of stuff that an entry-level agent should do. You can read through, this slide here, right here, and see that it can get obviously a lot more advanced and a lot more dialed. I mean, we use a company called Viral Marketing, but we do videos that are anywhere from 60 to 90 seconds. And in every single one of those videos, they're very, very critically written. We use a teleprompter and stuff like that, with a message that is engaging and actionable, so that whoever's watching it on the other end, will take action.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I use Viral Marketing myself, so it's VYRAL. And I think we, just so you know, Jay, we had Viral Marketing on the call with us about a month ago, so he did a great class.
Did you have Frank on? Frank was on with you?
No, it was Scott. Scott was on.
Scott, cheers. Yeah, Scott's a great guy.
Good dude, good dude. So talk to us about curate and centralize your online brand. And you got a bunch of examples here. And if you want a copy of this PowerPoint, it'll be in the link below, or you can grab it from your sponsor that sent you this. He'll have a copy of this PowerPoint after we're done.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. So, so this kind of goes back, to number one, to talking about building a 5-star online reputation. They're really not really very much separable. But the reality of this is, wherever you are found online, okay, and again, I don't want you guys to get overwhelmed that are listening to this. Sometimes this type of information can become overwhelming because, again, there's so many social media properties out there these days. But whatever you're going to do, think back to the things I already mentioned: Facebook, Yelp, Zillow. Wherever you're going to build your profile on those sites, you got to make sure that it's written professionally. Okay, so whatever you're going to say, what makes you the best, or what makes you, qualified to be a buyer's agent or a seller's agent, or perhaps own a real estate team, and then make sure that the same content is everywhere, right? So, I have a bunch of URLs on this slide right here, and again, as Scott said, I encourage you guys to go to many of these and look at these. I mean, these are all URLs that we've built, over the last 3 years. But it'll give you, again, a really, really good idea of what I mean by like a centralized brand. But if you're not a writer, okay, and a lot of people aren't, hire one, okay? Get a college kid, run an ad on Craigslist, talk to your circle of friends or your sphere of influence or whatever, and find somebody who can write, that will, charge you. Maybe you can figure out a plan where you pay them $50, to write, or $40 or something, to wherever you are in your market, to write out, your brand, I mean, and it's very simple. You could literally have a phone call with these folks and say, have them interview you and say, these are the bullet points about me, and then say, can you write this up and summarize this for me, and then, send it back to me, and then I can use it myself. I find too many agents getting into this business who are not, really good writers. Obviously they're not professional, but they struggle to write, and the last thing you want to do is have, incorrect grammar, poor syntax, or really just like, spelling errors or whatever, about your message found online, because it's critical that when people look and research and find you online, that your message is, again, consistent and unified across every other site. So don't focus on, having as much as, say, the Monica Diaz team has on all of their different sites. I mean, all you really need is, your name, what makes you stand out, if you want to list some information about your past production, or, what your goal is moving forward. If you're a brand new agent, all you have to really have is a tagline, a message, what is your goal in doing what you're doing, and again, make it consistent across all of those sites.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful, beautiful. All right. So next, let's go with harness the. Oops, we did video. Sorry, wrong way. Build and segment your database. Which, man, I tell you, I can't stress the power of our database. Talk to us about that, man, and what you guys do for that.
Sure. So a database is huge. Can you flip through to the next slide? It's not. I'm still on slide 3.
Oops, sorry about that.
No worries.
All right, there we go. Oops, there we go.
There we go. Cool. So the database, if you're an entry-level agent, it's unlikely that you have a database. So talking about this, I'll move a little bit to, somebody who's been in the business, say, 3+ years. But essentially, if you have 500 people in your database, what you want to do is, and again, I don't want to make this too advanced. I mean, a lot of people who have been in the business for 3 to 5 years are probably using some form of a CRM, which is a customer relationship management software that has all of these folks that they've either worked with or prospected to in some capacity, whether it's via phone call, email, blah, 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 what have you. But it's very, very important, especially as you become more and more successful in this business, to understand all the different people that are in your database. And what I mean by that is exactly what it says there, is that you have to identify folks, and we primarily identify people by obviously their name, their email address, their cell phone, and then what type of client they were, right? Were they a seller client? Okay, were they a buyer client? Were they, beyond that, if they were a prospect, were they somebody that had reached out to us or we had communicated with that was interested in selling our home? So you have to be able to identify all of these folks, because when you remarket to them, and you can remarket to them in numerous ways, you can call them on the phone, you can obviously send emails to them, which we're very big proponents of. You can actually get really even more advanced and retarget them on Facebook through custom audience targeting, which we're going to talk about later. But there's a million different ways that you can recommunicate and recontact your database, so it's critically important that you understand who's who in your database. I actually use a company, I don't like naming names and companies because I don't want to be partial, but I use a company called Contactually. It's Contactually, contactually.com. And they're really cheap. They're very inexpensive. I think for a professional user membership, it's like $59 a month. But they will allow you to hook on to every single different database that you are found online. So that's obviously your email, whether you use Google or you have an Exchange server. You can obviously use LinkedIn. You can connect your Twitter. I mean, pretty much any social media profile where you have a contact database, you can connect with them. And they are amazing because they actually allow you to segment your database in the most simplistic fashion that I've ever seen. Most people, and unfortunately before I started using Contactually, most people had to do it themselves, right? You had like an XLS or a CSV spreadsheet, and you would be going in there and you would be identifying like who's who. Oh, okay, this person was a buyer client, or this person was a seller client, or this was a past seller client. But again, the reason that you're segmenting all of this information is you want to be able to serve these folks emails, phone calls, however you re-interface or re-communicate with them based on the relevancy of how their relationship is built by you. So for example, a really good one as a real estate agent to think about is, has this person left you a review, right? If number one thing is to build a 5-star online reputation, well, what are you going to do? You need to solicit reviews from people. So when Monica and I have our database segmented, like the number one thing that we know about our database is like whether that person has left us a review or not. So if they haven't, well, guess what? Our infrastructure and our administrative folks are going after these people night and day to leave us a review, essentially until they say, hey, man, stop contacting us about that.
Right.
So I mean, it's critically important, to identify everybody that's in your database. Now, it's hard if you're a big agent. You've been around 10 years and you have a database of more than 5,000 people, and you didn't do that as you built that database, and a lot of people don't. And to be honest with you, when I first inherited Monica, she was a Mike Ferry agent, top producing Mike Ferry agent, and Mike Ferry, without saying anything bad about Mike Ferry doesn't really teach digital marketing, which is a major internal issue in my opinion about their deal. But she was doing all of this like guerrilla marketing, guerrilla warfare, interfacing and touching, door knocking and calling and doing all this stuff, but she was never getting email addresses for people, right? So I had this massive database of folks with addresses and phone numbers, but I had no way to communicate with them other than phone numbers. And obviously that gets old, and a lot of people move, and you don't have their cell phones, you have their landlines. So the reality is that it's very, very important that you have this kind of information, which is again their name, their email address, hopefully their cell phone, and then again how is their relationship integral to your business, so that when you do remarket to them, you can communicate to them in that behaviorally targeted fashion.
Beautiful, man. Contactually is what he just mentioned, in case everybody missed that. So contactually, from what I heard you say, is it allows you to segment where they come from, and
exactly.
Also,
I mention them because they're so easy to use. You literally in 30 minutes can be up and running with them, and then they have this game that they play on their business or on their site. It's called the bucket game, and what it is I mean, honestly, you could be on a phone call with somebody, or just doing your normal out prospecting tasks and play the bucket game. And what it does is it serves like right on the screen a name or an email address or a person in your contacts, and it asks you to identify them based on what they were. So when you first turn on the software, everything is pre-identified, but it gives you like 10 different pre-identifications. Is this a past seller? Is this a past buyer? Is this a current prospect, a hot lead, blah, blah, blah. So once you go in and you identify the type of segmenting that you want to do for the people, then you can literally in like 5 seconds for every person in your database identify them. And then, of course, once they're identified, it creates drip campaigns. It creates like it basically just every day you wake up in the morning, you have a list in your contactually not your database, but your whatever you call when you land on it right there on the first page that indicates to you, hey, this is a task you need to follow up with. This person, you haven't followed up with this person in 45 days. They were a past seller, blah, blah, blah. So it just simplifies and streamlines your ability to segment everybody in your database. It's really an awesome tool.
Sounds like accountability, too. It's like, hey,
totally.
You haven't communicated in 45 days, let's go,
Yeah, I love it. I mean, honestly, like I've only been using it for a couple months, but I live by it. I mean, it's literally the first thing that I look at in the morning, and it gives me a very, very streamlined understanding of like what am I going to do today, in my real estate business. And honestly, it really, really simplifies things too because you're not all over the place. Like, okay, these are the 8 people that I need to contact today. Boom, let's do it.
Awesome. Appreciate that, man. Send out twice monthly email newsletter.
So. Again, depending on the level of involvement that the folks that are watching this call are and where they're at in their business, a monthly email newsletter is literally essential to again recommunicating, remarketing, or essentially retargeting the folks that you find value with, that you've either done business with, or prospecting with, or hope to do business with in the future. I've used, and I have another slide coming up about it, but I use actually 2. We use Infusionsoft, which is mostly a remarketing software. It's not as user friendly as these other ones I mentioned here, which is MailChimp, iContact, or Aweber. But honestly, anyone can start MailChimp today. It's free. If you're under, I think 2,000 names, or if it's under 1,500 names in your database, which almost 90% of entry-level people are, and then just play around. It's literally like a step-by-step. Go into it, play around on it for 45 minutes to an hour, and you can build your first template. They're all built cookie-cutter templates. It's very simple. Put in your logo, put in your name. Even if you don't have a logo, put in your name, and it will build you a template. And it's, in my opinion, this is the best way. As a 21st century digitally advanced agent, to continually recommunicate with everyone that's in your database, whether they really want to be contacted by you or not. So, you use contactually to follow up with people on a daily basis to give you, rote tasks, but you use a monthly email newsletter to send out information that's informative, that, makes you look like somebody who knows what the hell they're talking about in real estate. I like to say, become a thought leader. Become somebody that is an information or, an information expert, a subject matter expert at SME, or an authority, right? So that's what you're sending out in your newsletter. Like, that's the kind of information you want to send out in your newsletter, whether you do it once or twice a month. We send out one twice a month. With a video, going back to number 2 in this slide deck, this is what's going on with the Monica Diaz team, or this is what we're doing, or here's something that we just thought that everybody who's considering selling their home should know. Or if you're considering purchasing a property, have you done the following things? So you kind of have like you intro with a video, and then maybe you have links to articles. We're really big on every month. We always send our second newsletter. We try to do them on the 5th and the 20th. Sometimes we end up doing them on the 15th and 30th. We try to send out information that's relevant at that time too, right? So if it's around a holiday, like we just sent out a newsletter last week that had things to do in Los Angeles for Memorial Day weekend, right? So it's truly about connecting with people in ways that they find, A, likable, and B, relatable. It's not constant sell, sell, sell. I'm the Monica Diaz team. Jay and Monica are trying to sell you. We're trying to get you to list your house with us. It's not always about that. It's mostly about information. Why would you use us? How can we provide value to you if you read our email? And then secondarily, how can I provide information that is useful to you in your life that has nothing to do with real estate? So once you become one of those type of folks, people look at you differently. And it's like I always tell Monica, you want to be presumed or thought of as like a thought leader, or somebody that, hey, I'm interested in what these people have to say.
Well, the biggest part, Jay, is like, you're reminding them of who you are and what you do for a living just by the email.
Exactly.
So if you just give them great information about what's going on downtown, or what's happening this weekend, or hey, do you know about this, or kids eat free here, or anything of the sort that they might not. Just they'll look forward to your email.
Well, it's a great point, Scott. Like as we go further on in this slide deck, I talk about this a lot. I am actually of the opinion now that email is losing its relevance. And what I mean by that is I think we all know that we are being bombarded by information in so many different segments, right? Facebook, instant messages, text on your phone, multiple IMs, WhatsApp. I mean, there's so many ways for people to interface amongst each other these days that email isn't even top of mind anymore. Like the reality is like how many of us, business decision makers in our day and age, Scott, get literally spammed, and I will say spam because most of the emails that we get are unsolicited, unwarranted. But I mean, we have so many of them in our inbox that like, how do we even choose or pick the one that we want to read? Exactly. So my argument is, it goes back to what you just said. Sure, you want to re-communicate. Sure, you want to re-educate. But the truth is if you're not already somebody that person finds value in, they're not going to read your email.
They're not going to read it.
So if it comes from the Monica Diaz team and they've worked with us and they know that we're awesome at what we do from a real estate perspective, then they're probably going to click on the email. Now, maybe they're only going to give me 10, 15 seconds because that's all they have. But guess what? 10 or 15 seconds is a lot more than not getting any time at all.
It's better than the video or email you didn't send. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Utilize the power of CRM to sequence marketing to your database.
Right, so I'm not going to talk a lot about this. This is very high-level stuff. If you are an advanced agent, I ask for you to reach out to me, and we can talk about this. I'm a big Infusionsoft believer. Infusionsoft is incredibly amazing from a standpoint of, I'm sorry, somebody actually just rang the doorbell at my house. Hopefully my dog doesn't go crazy. But I don't, Infusionsoft is not for an entry-level agent. It's not even really for a year agent. It's for somebody that wants to sequence their marketing from a standpoint of, you're going to send out messages that have drip campaigns attached to them and numerous other things inside them. So Infusionsoft is an amazing tool, but for most folks, you don't need Infusionsoft. What you would use is, again, the stuff we just showed before, which is MailChimp, Aweber, iContact to just send out your newsletters. But Infusionsoft, just from a high-level standpoint, allows people, productive agents with teams and stuff like that, to sequence all of their marketing. So what I mean by that is if you send out an email or a database email in Infusionsoft, essentially based on what the consumer in your database does when they get it, you can then sequence additional emails and additional marketing emails to them based on their behaviors. So it's an amazing tool. It's not even expensive. However, it is complex. The average person is not going to be able to go to Infusionsoft and write rules or sequencing or any of that stuff. You'd have to hire somebody. The guy, Frank Klesich at Viral Marketing is a huge Infusionsoft dork. He's, been using Infusionsoft for 6 years. But again, for the purposes of our discussion here, it's a great tool. If anybody wants to reach out to me and talk about it, I can speak at a very high level about it, but I don't think we want to spend a lot of time talking about it right now.
Okay, sounds good. All right. Don't pay for coaching. I love this one, and I can't wait to hear what you have to say because I see a lot on the group pages. Who should I go with? What should I do? How should I go about it?
So this is a pet peeve of mine. I coach people outside of real estate. I do not coach people in real estate. I do have a free real estate mastermind that right now I don't even have any time in my life. We had at one time like 30 people into it. If you want to go to my page, it's monicadiazteam.com/mastermind. Feel free to go to there. You can download this slide. And you can also send me an email, or actually I think it's just a clickable landing page we built there. One of my consultants built there now, and you can be signed up for that. When we get back to it, it's a once-a-month mastermind where I hold a call for like 60 to 90 minutes, and basically just people call up and they ask questions. And it's an amazing exchange of ideas. I have some very high-level producers on there. There's a couple guys on there that do more than $100 million a year with teams who are friends of mine that I've networked with. So right now it's not going on because the summer is crazy and there's all kinds of stuff going on right now in my life outside of real estate, so I apologize for that. But my take on coaching is very simple, okay? If you're an entry-level agent and you have no clue on how to communicate and speak to people from a scripting standpoint, what I mean by that is if you don't know how to stand in front of a customer and tell them or say to them what is important for you from a real estate perspective, then you know what, go ahead and hire a coach. However, when I say hire a coach, make sure it's not taking so much money out of your day-to-day life from a monthly standpoint that it's putting you behind or making you go into debt on your credit card. Okay, I see way too many young guys, guys and gals, in their early 20s who are getting into real estate who already have student loan debt, who are paying coaches of which I won't name names, and they don't have the money to pay them. Okay, so that doesn't mean that a coach is not a valuable resource, because a coach can be an amazing resource. I think personally coaches are great for achievers and top producers who need, a little bit of boost in their mindset from a standpoint of, they want to be more accountable. Their life can become overwhelming at times as an entrepreneur. We know that we work a lot of hours, and we sometimes we struggle to shut it down. So I think working with someone like that, when it makes sense, when you can afford it, is great. It keeps you accountable and stuff like that. But if you are somebody who's really young, starting out in this business, you don't have a book of business, you really unfortunately don't know what you're doing, then if you're going to pay for coaching, make sure it's somebody that is not expensive from a standpoint of it's not going to bankrupt you on a month-to-month basis, and at the same time isn't somebody who's going to hook you into numerous other people in their network where all of a sudden you thought you were paying $500 a month and now you're only paying, or obviously you're paying $3,000 a month. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, yeah. One of the things we talk about is, man, if you're broke, don't do it. There's a lot of things. So if you guys, a couple people asked about the site. So it's, I got it on the screen right now. It's monicadiazteam.com/mastermind. So you can go there and opt in. Really cool. A lot of good content. He puts his videos up there, which are good. So a great resource.
I actually did. There's a number of videos there. I don't mean to cut you off. But there's a number of videos there. I actually did a video with Frank at Viral Marketing about 2.5 years ago of all the things that I did to get Monica to where she was when I first started with her, which was like 35 to 40 deals to close to 100. So, transactions. So all of that stuff is very, very laid out in some of those videos. I think there's 2 videos there, and it's very, very lay from a standpoint of like it's speaking at a level that any person just breaking into real estate would understand, and it's more of a step-by-step guide than what we're talking about today.
Perfect. All right, let's talk about, and I love this one because I've heard a lot about this, and I have some people that have been on years ago that talked about the home evaluation and buyer website.
Sure. So there's a number of companies out there now that do this, and I'm not going to say that any of them is better than the other. I use a company called Prime Buyer Leads and Prime Seller Leads. I'm very good friends with the owner of the company, and him and I have done some personal consulting on the side together. So he has thrown me a bone and lets me use his technology. What these sites are is very simple. We have a buy. You're going to have one for seller and one for a buyer. So ours is SoCalHomeValues.org. I'm sorry, SoCalHomeValues.com, and then MonicaDiazTeamHomeFinder.com. So each site is what I call like a mousetrap or a spider web to get consumers to go in and figure out, if it's the buyer site, if it's MonicaDiazHomeFinder.com, to look into our personalized website that's interfacing with the MLS in our market, so that they can research properties, through that. So the reality is, I think it's there you go, exactly. That's a perfect example of one. You want them unbranded. That's obviously a sell side one. But you want them unbranded because you want the consumer to go into this site thinking that they're not going to be sold anything, right? They're going to go into this site. They're going to find out what their house is worth. If it's an evolved one, and the one I use is very evolved, they do nothing except give their email address, and then the site actually calculates all the information based on their address that they give them and tells them it sends them an email with a customized report of what their house is worth. So at that point, why is this valuable? Well, it's valuable to you because A, you're capturing their email address, but most importantly, you're actually now, you have permission to remarket to them, because by them going into these, quote unquote sites and getting this information, they've opted in. And once they've opted in, then they've expressly permissed you or given you permission to remarket to them in the form of emails. So you can evolve these things. We could talk all day about this stuff, Scott, as you know. The one thing about these sites that I love is, and that leads into the next slide or slide on this presentation about custom audience targeting, is you can really evolve your Facebook funnels, okay, based on those sites. And what I mean by that is that, and this is again, I don't want to get too complex or esoteric and go off the rails on talking about Facebook custom audience targeting, but you can use Facebook in as little as $5 a week, literally.
Yeah.
If you have those type of websites, again, the buyer site and the seller site, built correctly with drip campaigns attached to them, with potentially an Infusionsoft sequencing campaign based on what people's behaviors and consumer behaviors is once they're in those sites, and it can make you a lot of money. I'll defer to my buddy Josh Smith. He's got a large real estate team in Arizona, in Phoenix, and he is literally, between everybody and his company, they spend close to 75, 80 grand a month on Facebook and custom audience targeting. Now, they're a very, very, very rare group. He's probably the most evolved Facebook custom audience targeter in real estate that I know of. I don't know if anyone is more evolved than him, but they get legitimately, no exaggeration, they source between 22 and 24 deals a month off of Facebook to this. Okay?
That's a buyer, client, or listing.
Exactly. I mean, well, most of them are sales. I mean, it's incredible what they do. But let me just talk about Facebook custom audience targeting for a second, just because we jumped into this, and I didn't really give a good lead in. So what Facebook custom audience targeting is if you go into Facebook and you do what we said in step number 1, which is you build a business page. You build a Facebook business page, okay? And it's very simple to do. Just Google it. Go on YouTube and watch a video for 3 minutes of how to do it. It's simple. Anyone can do it. It also allows you the ability through their business ads manager, and that to me is actually too complex now. Facebook needs to fix that, but that's another story for another day. You can go on there and you can build an ad in a matter of 5 minutes, okay, that you can then target to anybody, because Facebook allows you to go into their demographic funnel. It's like a drop-down arrow, and start targeting by income. You can target by zip code. You can target by age. You can target by whether they're a seller or they're looking for information as a real estate buyer. I mean, any topic or any analytic criteria from a demographic standpoint, you can target on Facebook. Okay. Now it can become complex because you have to understand what you're doing when you're really dialing in or drilling down, and you're getting granular. But again, there's companies out there. Again, if you're an entry-level agent, I do not recommend you paying anybody, but you could do this yourself. But for some of you guys that are watching this that are more accomplished, I'd be happy to recommend some companies. Jumpwire Media is like the number one company in the business, but they're way higher level. Like, huge corporations use them, but they do everything. They do what is called done-for-you custom audience targeting on Facebook. But you would have to be a large, very top-producing agent to be able to work with them because they're so expensive. But anyone can go in after they build their business page, start playing around with the Facebook Ads Manager, and literally learn to do this in a matter of seconds. Like, for example, I run ads when we have listings. I will run an ad and I will target it, for 2 weeks around when the listing is presented. Probably it's going to start moving to 4 weeks now because the market's slowing down here in Southern California. But around when we want to market it, when all of the promotion is going on in the MLS and whatnot. So there's a million different ways to advertise and custom audience target on Facebook, but to keep it as simplistic as possible for the entry-level folks, just go into the business ads manager, play around. It literally is step by step. It says build an ad, do a promote a post, or build an ad, or one of those two things, and just play around in there. And you can see as you start playing around, how drilled down and how dynamic you're allowed from a targeting standpoint. And you'll also see, last mention is it's not expensive, as you know, Scott. I mean, you can literally target ads to run, based on click rates. Again, I don't want to get too evolved here, but you can literally target ads to run as low as $5, a week. I mean, obviously, I don't recommend that. I mean, most of the times it's anywhere from $5 to $10 a day. But right. You can easily do a very, very structured, very focused, very measurable, and hopefully transactional custom audience targeted ad over a month and spend less than $100. And if you get 2 or 3 people that end up becoming clients, I mean, you can see the ROI is massive.
Unbelievable. So, I don't know if you gave me an idea, but you talked about the company that does the leads that I showed you the website of. Was it Prime Real Estate or Prime Leads or something like that? Or
yeah, so it's Prime Buyer Leads and Prime Seller Leads. The company is called iVortex Media, but yeah, you can find them on any of those sites. Yeah,
so I love this layout of what you're doing, and we're going to finish with social media. But if you think about what we've covered, like your online, what your profile is online, the video marketing, the curating, like the how you communicate with people online, your database, the mailers. Like, no wonder you're doing good. You know what I mean? Like, this is just stuff that should be done on a on a daily basis. And to be honest, I think most of the stuff we've talked about can be done by somebody else.
Yeah, it can. I mean, it just. I like to say for entry-level agents, here's the issue, and let me just like take a step back and just just from a very high-level standpoint, one thing I want to make very clear to everybody listening here. A lot of markets are still okay. So I'm in Southern California, right? I'm in the most advanced, the most technologically sophisticated place, blah blah blah, of the United States. So they say, right? But the reality is this: within 10 years, this is a statistical fact. Within 10 years. Every single deal that we would do as any of us from a real estate perspective will be in some capacity done online. Okay, the transaction will be based online. Whether that's just the transaction is just totally paperless and people go to a portal, they work with you, you show them houses or you sell their house, you meet with them, whatever. But everything is going to be done online. So the reality of this is as the market shifts and as the awareness of digital technology and online awareness becomes more ubiquitous, more ever present. Every single person, this goes back to number one, every single person, regardless of age, is going to research you before they do business with you. Okay, so the bottom line is that everything that you should do today, especially as an entry-level agent, should be done around the idea that I must build a strong online presence. I must, in everything that I do, build a brand that people can identify with and people want to work with or like, right? Like, I do not want to go out in the marketplace and burn people. I do not want to be a person that is disloyal or doesn't honor my word to people, because I'm telling you, and I say this to agents every day of my life in my conversations, if you're doing that, you're done. If you're a successful agent who's been in the business for 20 years and you've pissed off a lot of people and you've burned a lot of people, your time is short. Because the millennial generation, and obviously all generations after that, these are folks that are instant gratification. They have zero loyalty to anything. Okay? Their loyalty is to what they see on their screen at that given moment, regardless of what screen it is, right? It could be 20 different screens for them. So the only way you're going to separate yourself in the marketplace is to have an awesome online reputation. You have to be that guy or that gal as an agent or a team that when people research you, what comes up is good. Because if it's not, you're done. It's as simple as that. Now, I say this a lot of times to a lot of folks that are in smaller markets in North America, and they say, oh, you're full of shit. Traditional media still is the best here, and I got guys on the radio, and people are still doing, local cable television and blah blah blah, and all that is true, and I would never disagree or disassociate with that. But I'm telling you guys, if you're listening to this or you happen to get this as a podcast later, it's all about your online brand. It's everything. It's now and it's the future. There's nothing more important than building a very credible online brand. Nothing.
Man, it's funny. It's funny you bring that up. You said 10 years. I don't know if I would push it that long. I mean, we're kind of there already with Facebook being so crazy powerful, and Instagram and Snapchat and all these places that are doing these. I mean, why they're making so much money? Because there's eyeballs there.
Exactly.
So this new millennial crowd, it's insanity how they communicate. I love watching my son. He's 19. I watch from him, like. Him and his friends, like you learn everything you need to know about the next generation.
It's incredible. I have a 20-year-old. Yeah, dude. I didn't mean to cut you off. I agree with you 100%. I mean, I have a 20-year-old. My Monica's. It's my bonus son. He's not my biological, but same thing, man. Like these guys, it's amazing because they're very gifted. They can harness and manipulate data. They understand technology. They don't communicate like we do because they're not really they're not big on face-to-face communication. But believe me, they know how to research you online, and they do look at that. And what I mean by that, I agree with you too on the 10 years thing. It's just I hear a lot from people when I talk to them who are in smaller markets, because I'm a big believer in Yelp. Yelp is so powerful in Southern California. I tell people this all the time, and again, I'm a dork. I look at, analytics. I look at sites, traffic. I understand, from split testing, A/B testing, like what works, what doesn't work. And I tell people this all the time. They don't believe me, but Yelp is more influential than Google in Southern California. I'm not kidding you.
Wow.
When the millennials go online to search for someone about something, if you're a business or an entrepreneur, they're on Yelp. That's where they go. They go to Yelp on their phone. So I mean, that's, like you said, it's, Facebook is massive too, of course, but not from a reputation or credibility standpoint. It probably will get there. They'll probably buy Yelp. That's my guess, is they'll just buy Yelp and incorporate it in. But the reality is that, what you said is absolutely true, Scott. I mean, it's online credibility. The millennial generation, their trust or loyalty is at that moment when they research you, right? Like I'll give you a perfect example. When Monica and I go on a listing presentation, if we're working with a 30-year-old guy whose parents died or one of their parents died and they got to sell the house based on the trust, there's no presentation for us. We're not competing against other realtors. They've already read about us online and they've chosen us just based on our reputation. They don't even know us. But our reputation is that good and our digital footprint is that strong that they're like, yep, we're working with Jay and Monica. So think about that. If you're an agent, there's no negotiation of commission. There's no conversation about commission. It's just, we're working with you guys clearly based on what we've read about you. You're the best. Let's move forward. Boom. That's how it works.
So that they've done it.
Yeah. So that's again why everybody has to build a pristine, powerful, credible digital footprint in the marketplace, because that's the only way that you're going to be able to stand out from the crowd. And I do believe that every business it's the same thing for every business. If you're a car dealership, if you're a hair salon, any of these things is the same thing. Like, why will somebody choose you over the millions of other potential commoditized, businesses that are doing the same thing?
So I was talking about this morning, Jay, and I said, how do you, like, you and I know this. You and I know this, how big and powerful the social media footprint is. But it comes back to, like, where do I start? And everybody, our DNA is leads. Let's get more leads. Like, people, like, they have a database of 1,000 people that they never communicate with that know, like, and trust them, but they drive towards more leads. Like, how do you, and I don't really have a question here. All I'm saying is, how do you help someone, to jump into this world and I mean, just to have one more deal per month is life-changing. You know what I mean? Totally.
Yeah. Well, go ahead. Keep going.
So everybody heard exactly what you're doing and what you should do and what's coming, and then we get off this webinar, we get off this podcast, and we go, all right, I know I'm supposed to do it, but then they jump back into their daily lives. Do you have any suggestions how, not to fly back into the birdcage per se, because we all live in our little comfort zone and we do the things we do on a daily basis, and it's a habit, and here's what I do when I get up and here's what I go to bed, and how do I change what I'm doing to fit, or how do I start? Like, I guess is where my question, like, what advice would you give somebody that is not that social media person or has the profile set up? Like, where do you start?
It's a great question. I mean, again, it's hard for me to give an answer because there's so many different levels of folks on the phone. But what I would do if you are, like, I'll summarize it by saying, okay, if you're here or if you're here. So if you're entry level, what you should absolutely positively do is go on Google and search, in the search terms, just put Monica Diaz + realtor. And then watch or look and play around, and it'll take you probably a couple days, but I know nobody has a couple days, but spend an hour at night, for a week, and just read all the things that I've done, my consultants have done, we've done, building our digital footprint. Okay, that will give you every single answer that you possibly could want, because you will see all the things that we've done, you will see all the different various online footprints that we have, and then really, again, I'm not saying do what we do because not everybody is at that level, but it will give you enough ideas to say, oh, wow, I should probably put this to action. I definitely would say, though, too, go back to step one, which is what I said. Do three things. Build a Facebook business page, build a Yelp business page, and make sure your profile on Zillow is strong, okay? Those are not going to take a long time, okay? If you can't write professionally, find somebody who can. Sit with them on a phone, meet with them. I mean, you can easily do this on the phone and record the conversation, okay? You can do an online webinar like you and I are doing, using freeconferencecall.com. It's free, and record the goddamn call, right? But it's very simple to do any of this stuff. It just takes you becoming intentional and doing it, and believe me, I know, dude, it's distraction. I do literally like 5 to 6 podcasts a week with folks, inside of real estate, outside of real estate, mostly outside of real estate now. And, that's like one of the number one questions I always ask people is like, man, are you ever overwhelmed?
Right.
Right? Because most people that are in our line of work, successful entrepreneurs, where it's just a nonstop hustle. The grind is every day.
Yes.
What do you do to alleviate, the quote unquote lack of productivity that often happens when you're just overwhelmed? Well, I mean, this podcast or this, this webinar isn't about, strategies for that kind of stuff, but, I will tell people, and my wife is amazing at this. Monica's amazing at this. She's very empowered. But you definitely have to make time in your day, every single day, to have mindfulness. Now, I don't care what mindfulness is to you. That may mean that you wake up 20 minutes early and you walk out in the backyard of your house and just listen to the birds chirp, or you walk your dogs and you listen to your dogs, or whatever. But every one of us should always, at least daily, at 15 to 20 minutes, however it is. And folks that make excuses and say, I don't have 15 or 20 minutes, they're full of shit. Everybody has 15 or 20 minutes. You can make time, but take time and look inward and work on, what is called mindfulness. I'm not going to explain that, but if you don't understand mindfulness, just Google the term. It's very simple. It's a time of self-introspection or self-reflection. Okay, and just think, breathe, learn to breathe. A lot of people like to meditate, do stuff like that. That's fine. Some folks like to just read books. Spiritual type, enlightening type books, self-help books, whatever. Those are great too. Whatever allows you to look inward for 15 to 20 minutes a day will help you in your life. I know I kind of went off on a tangent, about, what do you do, but, just to take it back, I think it's very important in order to finish anything that you always have to take time for yourself and not just constantly focus on, oh my God, I don't have a business page on Facebook, or oh my God, I wouldn't even know how to start to build a business page on Yelp. Because it's very simple. You do know how to do it. You just want to look at other people who have already done that and then platform whatever you're doing off of, their success. Again, that whole imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. So just go around and look at what other people have done. Again, for the simplicity of this call, look at MonicaDiazTeam.com, search Monica Diaz + realtor on Google, and just look at all the things that we've done and just click in, and play around. But if you were going to put a gun to my head and you were an entry-level realtor and you asked me the 3 things to do, I would say, from a social media standpoint, you have to build a brand. Okay, so you got to build on those 3 sites. You also should build a YouTube page. You should, start publishing videos from your phone if that's all you have, you can afford, about like why somebody would work with you as a realtor, and then post it on your Facebook wall. You don't have to, if you're somebody that has no business whatsoever, you have no production at all, you've never done, you just started off as a realtor, you don't even have to build a Facebook business page, but you do have to post videos on your Facebook page, your personal page, saying why would somebody would work with you as a realtor, or what would make somebody work with you. So I know, again, it can become very distracting, for somebody who's just starting out, like what to do. But you got to just, like they say, just it's one step at a time. One small bite after one small bite leads to bigger bites and more food consumed. So ultimately, you just have to continue to focus on what it is that you're doing. And I keep myself accountable and trackable based on my calendar. I have set times every single day of when I'm going to do select things, right? So if that means for you, that if you're, a Mike Ferry agent, or you're, working with some other coach, a Craig Proctor agent or whatever, and you have to phone prospect or canvas or whatever for 3 hours a day and every other time, well then structure when you're going to build your social media presence and your online brand at a time outside of that. So it's very simple to become accountable to yourself, to become, intentional, but you have to make time and you have to allocate space in that daily grind to do all of these things.
You bring up a good point. So if you're not good at writing, you're not good at social media, you're not good at whatever, fill in the blank, what you're saying is find somebody that can, like if you grab a millennial who's 19 to 25, yep, they know social media like the back of their hand. My son teaches me stuff all the time. It's insane.
Exactly. I mean, that's a great point. You can easily get a 20-year-old kid to do this stuff for you.
Absolutely. And so, Carolyn, and we'll finish with this question. Carolyn, I appreciate you being here. She says, I've been selling for 30 years and have a pretty large business, but I am not the tech savvy. And I think it just goes by finding somebody that is and farming that stuff out. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, if she's been 30 years in the business and successful and has discretionary income, she should hire viral marketing I
Absolutely.
didn't. There's a ton of people that I didn't. Obviously, Scott, you and I, we don't want to be recommending people or sound
Yep.
biased and send
Yep.
people to them. But if somebody asked me that question, where can I go help? I'm clueless when it comes to digital marketing and stuff like that. And first off, to her, congratulations on being a realtor for 30 years. You've outlived the average realtor by 29, right? Statistically. So congratulations. Um, but the reality is that I totally get it. I see this all the time. If I really wanted to be a digital marketing tactics coach, I could probably make a fortune, but I would drive myself crazy because I feel bad. But the reality is that there are companies out there, man. Viral Marketing is a great company. They're not expensive. They're $500 a month. They're going to manage your database. They're going to fix your database. They're going to target. They're going to produce the videos for you. They're going to send out the videos, and obviously recommend a newsletter for a company. One of the ones we talked about. But they're a great piece. There's also other social media companies out there. I would immediately pay Contactually. I would sign up with Contactually. I would pay. They have consultants. They have high-level consultants that you can pay, who can literally come in and analyze your database. They can do this online, or they can literally come to your house or your office and sit down with you and say, okay, what are your goals? And then once you tell them your goals, because you know what your goals are, they can figure everything out for you. So there's very simple ways to do this stuff. Again, it's becoming intentional. It's telling yourself, hey, I have to do this. For that person, the 30-year person, that's a great example. I mean, a lot of folks who are older and have been in this business for a long time and are highly successful, man, the game has changed. The
Right.
market has shifted. And if they want to remain relevant, social media is, I mean, you already know this, guy. I mean, it's first and foremost, okay? Like, it's 1A and 1B. Okay, lead generation is all part of that, however you factor that in. But if you feel that your lead generation still consists of you phone calling people and door knocking, then you're done. And get out of the real estate business, because it's not going to work. I mean, I can show you guys statistics of phones. Like, first off, it's still illegal to call people on their cell phones if they haven't opted in, right?
Right.
Like 80% of people in North America do not have a landline anymore. And guess who are the folks that have landlines? Older folks that get called by every single real estate agent all day long, all day. So if you're calling them, you're the 50th guy calling them that day, or the 100th if you're in LA.
That's right. That's right. Cool. So to end this, so Viral Marketing is VYRAL Marketing. I personally use them myself. Love them. It's amazing how much stuff they've taken off my plate. You got to check it out. It's pretty cool. Just get a consultation with them right here, 1-800-323-9974. And then Contactually, dude, I don't know how I missed this. I've used it before, but I didn't realize the power behind what you said. So thank you for bringing that
Well,
up.
it's funny with Contextually, dude, because the owner of the company reached out to me like 3 years ago and was like, "Hey, man, I want you to do this. I'll let you do it for free. I want you to try it out and get back to me." And I ignored him too. It's like one of those things. There's so many widgets. There's so many technologies in the marketplace. I didn't have time. But now looking at what they do, I'm just like blown away that I wasn't using it. Because I even told Monica this like a month ago. I was like, "God damn, I wish we were using this for 3 years."
Right. Yeah, where would we be if we were, right? That's the question. So.
Hey, man, everything's a process. We're always evolving, ever evolving. So, whenever you start and launch something, you're better off.
Jay, thank you so much. I'm excited about getting to know you more. I know we're going to be doing some stuff in the future, and man, I'd love to have you back someday and have you just catch up on whatever the heck you're working on. I know you have some really cool stuff going, and you're introducing me to some high-end, top-end people, and I just can't wait. There's another, I won't say any names, but we have another software that we might be presenting here in a little bit that's just knocking it out of the park, that helps with the Facebook stuff. So I don't know how we met, man, but I'm thankful that we did, and I'm really looking forward to having you part of the Agent Mastermind site and whatever else we do, man.
I appreciate it, Scott, man. Thank you so much for having me on today. I'm more than welcome to come back, talk about anything you want to talk about. And yeah, man, agreed. Like minds, right? The real estate market is small for like minds. So, like I said, man, I'm glad we met, and I'm very honored that I was here today. And again, for any of the folks listening or anybody watching on the podcast, I can be reached. It's jay@monicadiazteam.com. Or reach out to us through any of our various social media profiles, and you can get me. I'm pretty quick to get back to you, so I look forward to you reaching out.
All right, and he's great on text. So thank you so much, brother. I appreciate it more than you'll ever know. And everybody, thanks for listening to Agent Mastermind today. We'll see you same time, same place, right here on the web. Have a good day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you.